Hello everyone, this is Bill from South Hanover, Pennsylvania, otherwise known as Whiskey 9 Hotel Juliet. A number of people have asked me what sort of antennas I run at my QTH, and I figure I'd make a little video to show. Sorry for all the mess right now. It's getting to be fall, so I have a lot of leaves and acorns and such to pick up. But basically, towards the back corner of my my home, that's actually the window to my shack. Right below that, I got a 2-inch coring bit and drilled a hole through the foundation and ran all my wires through. I had a PVC box that sort of brings multiple coaxes through. I believe I have 4 or 5 plus some 12 gauge control wire running out there. And then most of that just pops up, and I spent time and actually ran some PVC pipe, dug it out and ran a trench all the way back along the edge to the back corner and did a split to come off to my my vertical antenna. Anyway, everything is outdoors, even though it may be UHF, VHF, or HF antennas, is using DX Engineering 400 max coax, which is the equivalent of LMR 400. It's probably overkill for most of my antennas, but this way I can put any antenna I want in any location, and I subscribe to the buy once, cry once philosophy. So this stuff, even though it's direct burial, I put it in conduit, so it should last longer than I do. But anyway, most recently I ended up putting a Roan 10-meter push-up mast. I have it braced against the side of my house, and then even up higher near the top is where I ran 3 guy wires, or guy ropes. It's actually UV resistant. I forget the name of the manufacturer, but it is it's really good. It's UV resistant, mold resistant, etc. Then as we go up, the first thing that you come down to, or come up to, is my scanner antenna. It's an AOR SA7000 super wideband receive antenna that operates from 30 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz. It's actually made in Japan, and I use it for my SDR play receiver, so I can monitor that inside my shack. All the way up at the top is where I have a Diamond X50A dual band UHF VHF antenna. Nothing really special about that. Pretty much a dime a dozen, but getting it up to 34 feet lets me pretty much get about 45-50 miles out. Again, I need to do a little bit of work on the property. My main antenna a lot of times will be this Hustler 6BTV antenna, but I've dressed it up nicely. As you can tell, the grass is still coming in. I put about 55 radials of various lengths, anywhere from as short as 8 feet and going around just to fill the space, maybe 40 or 50 feet. So there's radials all over the place. It's actually kind of hard, aside from the bare spots, which I'm going to do some overseeding pretty soon, but once they're covered with grass, you really can't tell them. I know the grass needs cutting. That's this weekend's project. But there is roughly 1,000 feet of radial field installed on this. I sunk the 2-inch pipe in the ground, probably about 3 feet, and then poured a couple 100 pounds of ready mix concrete into there. So this antenna pole is not moving. I did dress it up nicely so that the XYL won't have a fit, and then I actually think it looks pretty good. In addition to the radial field, I did drive a 8-foot ground rod mainly for lightning protection, to keep everything nice and safe. Although with the amount of trees that I have in my yard, there's some nice big ones, I don't think I have to worry about lightning hitting my antenna too much, although I do disconnect them all the time. In addition to the 6 bands that the 6 BTV comes with, I added 3 other optional bands to it. One is the 12 meter band, the other is a 17 meter band, and then all the way up top, the one that's sticking out sort of sideways, is a 60 meter band. So I jokingly call this my 9 BTV from Hustler. It's all tuned up. Pretty much the only 60 meters and 80 meters I tuned for FT8. Obviously it's a very compromised antenna on 80 meters, so whenever I want to work on 80 meters voice, then I switch over to a different antenna. Now going away to this side, I will go back to the back of the property, and this is approximately, I'd say, 65 or 70 feet away from the house. What I ended up doing is I had a nice long wooden fence that's about 74 feet, I believe. Just a wooden fence. One of my other antennas is a store-bought MyAntennas EFHW-8010-2K, and that goes up. There's a little bit of a slope to it. There's the coil to help tune 80, and it goes up approximately, I would say, probably 45-50 feet up to branches on this tree, and then it shoots directly forward to a tree in the front yard. So I'll call it a lazy inverted L. That antenna works pretty good. 10 meters to 80 meters, and that's what I mainly use for a lot of 80 meters, but I have another antenna which a lot of people have really asked me about this. What I ended up doing is it's what is known as a Terminated End-Fed inverted V. For the moment, I just have one coax running back to this corner, and then I have an MFJ antenna switch. So that will switch between my End-Fed antenna, End-Fed half wave, and my terminated inverted V. So down there you can see is a Palomar Engineers 9-to-1 cube Balun, and that's rated up to 1500 watts, and basically the coax comes into that. One side of the terminals, you can actually see my nice grounding strap, and I have a grounding rod down in there. One side goes to a 110-foot long wire that basically goes from the Balun. I have a little stringer that goes up to a dog bone, and then up to another dog bone, which is on top of a 10-foot piece of wood, and then that shoots across and up. I'm not sure of the exact angle, but it's pretty steep, up to a high point of about 64 feet. If you wait a second, I'll get over there. And basically I just picked a tree limb that's all the way up there. I'll have a diagram of the antenna so you can get a better idea. And then I threw a line with a dog bone over a tree limb and pulled it up, and that's actually so I can take it down. So at the apex, it's probably impossible to see, which is a good thing. It then comes down to a post, another 10-foot post on the opposite side of my property. Again, down to a dog bone. And that wire then goes down to a strain relief to a Palomar Engineering terminating resistor. It's 500 ohms, 375 watt rated. It's a non-inductive resistor. And then one side of that, the other side of that resistor goes to another wire, which I then deep insulated. Again, more dog bones. And that runs along the fence line back to the other side of the 9-to-1 balun on the other side. Again, I also tied a 8-foot ground rod into there. When you see the diagrams, it's based on an antenna system that was designed back in the 40s for the military. It's a very low SWR antenna across a whole range of bands. I have swept it. It's usable down on 2 meters and up to 630 meters below a 3-to-1 SWR for the most part, aside from maybe a peak here or there. It'll go up to just about 3.1 to 1 SWR, all the way up to 2200 meters. It's a very quiet receive antenna, and I guess a lot of people will say it's the second cousin to a rhombic. So it's a very good receive antenna, but I have gotten over 16,800 kilometers down to south central Australia using this antenna. So although a lot of people say, you know, it's a great receive antenna, but it'll never go very far, I've proven that wrong. Again, let me back up a little bit. So looking at the back of the property, there's the feed point in that corner for both of my wire antennas. It goes up to a high point and then comes back down to that point, hits the terminator, and then goes along the wooden fence. A lot of people will just put the counterpoise directly on the ground, but as you can tell, I have a number of doggies, and sometimes they like digging at the fence, so I decided to put it up a couple feet off the ground, so in case they did dig, they couldn't see it. You can just barely see the black wire, maybe a couple inches below the mid stringer. So that's my 2 wire antennas. Then there's my nice 9 BTV Hustler with 9 bands, and then back to the shack I have another 10-meter mast with, this is probably a better shot. The first one is the AOR SA7000 receive antenna, and then all the way at the top is my Diamond X50A UHF-VHF antenna. So that's the long shot of all my antennas, the antenna farm. 73s. This is Whiskey 9 Hotel Juliet.